And Jason Metnick will be presenting. He is the Senior Vice President of Customer Affairs for the Sustainable Forestry Initiative Program. It's a third-party forest certification system in North America. Jason holds a Bachelor of Science in Forestry from Northern Arizona University and is a member of the Society of American Foresters. He also sits on a number of committees related to certification, labeling, and claims, including the Program for Endorsement of Forest Certification's Chain of Custody Committee, is a member of the Sustainability Consortium Pulp, Paper, and Forest Sector, and previously chaired the ASTM Task Force Group in the Chain of Custody. So, Jason, I will go ahead and advance slides for you and mute myself now.
Great. Thanks very much for the opportunity to present today. What I was asked to present today was on how fiber input and fiber sourcing relates to the sustainable packaging design within the pet food industry. And so if you can go ahead and advance to the next slide. What I wanted to do was give a brief overview of what forest certification is, where it's going, and what SFI is specifically. And so forest certification really started in the early to mid 90s, and it started as a voluntary process really to provide assurances to consumers, customers, retailers throughout the supply chain that the products they're buying, whether it be wood, paper, packaging products, that the fiber that goes into those products are coming from well-managed forests. It really started as a response to a lot of concerns in developing countries, especially in those tropical regions. But today, what we've seen is there's more than 50 different forest certification standards worldwide, and operating in countries everywhere from the United States, Canada, to South America and Chile and Brazil, and to Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia and New Zealand. And so it really has become a global effort. The original purpose of it, forest certification, was really to provide those assurances to the markets, and it's really been those markets that have moved certification along throughout the last 2 decades. It's been that market demand by large retailers, whether in the solid wood sector, saying that my wood products need to come from a third-party certification standard, or in the office supply sector, looking at those reams of paper, or catalogs, or even retailers are setting goals and criteria by which they're going to source their wood, paper, and packaging products. Green building has definitely been a major market drive, as well as governments. The United Kingdom, as well as Japan, have set certain policies on the products that enter their countries. Next slide. What we've seen as of late, though, is there has been this many different coalitions that have formed. You heard from Green Blue earlier, the Sustainability Consortium, Consumer Goods Forum, the World Business Council Sustainable Development, and a newly formed Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council. And what these groups have done is they formed to look at sustainability across a wide range of issues. And forestry and forest certification do fall within a lot of these metrics that they develop and design. An example of the Consumer Goods Forum is they wanted to tackle a leading issue on a global concern, which is deforestation. One of the ways to measure deforestation is through commitments with forest certification programs. So does your company purchase products that may come from a company certified to a standard like SFI? Green Blue has a plethora of great information on their website too that talk about all the various forest certification tools, and the Sustainability Consortium has certain key performance indicators looking at forest certification within their policies as well. Next slide. So what makes up a credible forest certification standard? I've always said it really falls under 4 key aspects. The governance, is it independent? The forest standard, so how rigorous is that standard? Does it address a lot of those environmental attributes such as reforestation, protection of biodiversity, water quality, soil habitat, etc.? Is there a third-party component to it as well? So those companies that conform to the standard, are they third-party audited by accredited certification bodies? And then finally, a chain of custody or labeling program, really to provide that transparency or that proof point that the product that they're selling down the supply chain is indeed third-party certified through these various standards. Next slide. It is an alphabet soup of different acronyms and standards when you look at forest certification. The key thing to understand in all of this, and if you go to the next slide, is that only 10% of the world's forests are certified under any of these various standards that operate globally. And so there's been a lot of noise about the different certification standards, who's the A+ standard, who's the A-, who's the gold, who's the silver, but the key thing to remember is only 10% of the world's forests are certified, and so it's important to recognize the value of all these different certification standards out there. Next slide. So looking specifically at SFI, SFI is a North American-based forest certification standard. Our scope is only to certify lands in the U.S. and Canada, and it has been around since the mid to late 90s. We are grounded in science, regional expertise, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Next slide. At the heart of the SFI is the standard. This is the document that the participants within our program have to conform to. It's based off of 14 principles, 20 objectives, 115 indicators, and it covers a whole wide range of issues, from the environmental side to the social side to the economic side. Next slide. In North America, there's been about just over 240 million acres that have been third-party certified to our standard. And so while we've done a great job of really certifying those lands within the U.S. and Canada, one of the challenges that we always have within SFI is how can we increase the amount of responsibly sourced fiber in the supply chain? And if you go to the next slide. Because SFI was developed in understanding U.S. landscapes and U.S. landowner patterns, and understanding that the majority of the fiber in the U.S. that goes into packaging, wood, paper products, it doesn't come from large industrial landowners. It comes from these small family forest landowners. And so one of the things that really makes SFI unique is our fiber sourcing objectives. It's those proactive objectives to ensure that not only those manufacturers that are purchasing fiber from certified lands, but what are you doing on the non-certified land fiber basket as well to ensure that fiber is being sourced responsibly, that loggers are being trained, that landowners are being educated about the benefits of sustainable forestry. And so this is one of the unique aspects of SFI. I would say it's probably a unique aspect mostly because of SFI's involvement in our history stemming from being a North American, U.S.-based forest certification standard. Go to the next slide. When you hear the term chain of custody when it comes to forest certification, all chain of custody really is, it's an accounting system audit. It's understanding the fiber flow from the forest all the way to that end product. When it gets to the end user, the company that may be utilizing that packaging, as long as that company isn't manufacturing a package or printing a package, then there's no certification needed for them. The certification ends as soon as that package is printed and moves to be filled or utilized. And so really the process for certification, I would say is upstream from probably the people on this phone today, and the cost associated with forest certification for the organizations on the phone today is really just building that market demand and setting those policies. But there is no cost associated unless you are actually manufacturing that product yourself or printing that product yourself. Go to the next slide. One of the things that SFI is partnering with other organizations is trying to find unique ways to grow the amount of certified land, looking specifically at the U.S. South right now. And so we've partnered with 4 different major publishers, Time, Inc., National Geographic, Macmillan, and Pearson. And if you go to the next slide, what our goal is to find unique ways and collaborative alternatives to increase the amount of certified land available for companies to utilize in their different products. And our goal is to grow by 5 million acres by the end of 2014, an additional 5 million for a total of 10 million acres by the end of 2017. And we are on our way. We've reached about that halfway point by the end of 2014, and there has been a lot of good success. And so it's really from the landowner to the brand owner is what we call it, and really providing that value to that brand owner to show what is needed, what's involved within the forest certification process. If you go to the next slide. And I believe this is my last slide, and it's really just a website, more information you can learn, get the facts about what SFI does represent, who we are, the third-party certification process involved with the SFI program. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the next presenter. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jason, for giving us that overview of the paper side of transparency and packaging sustainability.